Hey everyone, and welcome back to Country Music Made Me. Thank you so much for joining us once again. As always, please be sure to like, share, follow, subscribe to us wherever you are listening. You can leave us a review, a rating, tell your friends, your family, your neighbors to come on over and have a listen. That support is huge. Today we are joined by George Birge. Now, his song Beer Beer Truck Truck exploded on TikTok earlier this year, but his musical career began back in 2014 when him and his buddy Cody moved to Nashville with their band Waterloo Revival. Now, after many years of building a career and really getting to a point where they were making a living playing country music, 2020 slowed things down, and it allowed George to think about what he really wanted. And he left the band. Now, he was moving more towards the writer side and was thinking that that would be his new career. But thanks to his song, Beer Beer Truck Truck, he has now moved into a solo career. We talked to him about the entire journey, as well as his love of golf and how that supports his musical journey and allowing him to have something that lets him free his mind every once in a while. So please enjoy our conversation with George Birge. When did golf start for you? Because that's a pretty big thing in your life, right?
Yeah, it's been, since high school for me. I've loved it. I just love being outside. I love hanging with friends, and it's a good excuse to do both of those things. So it's always been one of my favorite things to do. I used to be super competitive and get fired up about it. Now it's more of a escape for me. I try not to get too frustrated there. Every now and then I'll chuck a club, but I try not to.
And how important is that to have an activity outside of music, outside of your family, that just allows you to go and just decompress and forget about everything?
You have to have it. Music. Every aspect of life, any job's got its pressures and its stresses, but music especially, man. You're being judged every day. You're expected to create every day. You're on the road. You're always trying to deliver something that's going to change your life or get you to the next level. And it can be a pressure cooker. And so something to kind of like just clear your mind and be somewhere where in my opinion, golf courses are some of the most beautiful places in the world, between the nature and the trees and and the fact that you can do it anywhere. I try to do it on the road a bunch.
Right.
It's such an awesome escape for me. I'm a big fan, and anytime I can mix golf and music is even better.
Yeah, exactly. And I saw a photo of you and John Daly. Now, what is he like to play with? Not only his golf skills, but just the character that he is out on the course.
I have never met anyone else like him. He is an absolute sweetheart of a man. Nicest guy you'll ever meet. He's a maniac. First time I played with him, he got one of those, tall, skinny Michelob Ultra cans and shotgunned a beer on it and then put it on the ground and put the ball on top of it and teed off and hit it 300 down the middle. And he goes, "Welcome, Earthlings." Like, damn, man, that was pretty cool. But he's a really good guy. And he's a huge country music fan. So it's fun for us because, we kind of geek out on playing golf with John Daly, one of the greatest, coolest golfers of all time. And he kind of geeks out hanging out with us just because he is obsessed with country music. And so we're always talking songwriting and stuff with him. And then he's always giving us golf tips.
That's awesome. And I saw a few years ago now, you had the chance to visit Augusta. Now, since then, have you had the chance to play it, or is that still on the bucket list?
It is still on the bucket list for me. I had one opportunity to play it, and scheduling did not work out, and it kills me. It keeps me up at night every day, but it's going to happen one day. I know it will. So I'm definitely excited to get out there at some point. But I would say, as far as the golfing bucket list and just bucket list in general, that's the top. Yeah, that's as good as it gets.
That's awesome. And now, enough about the golf. Let's move on to the music. And on Country Music Made Me, I like to explore the journey that a musician has taken, looking at your socials from way back in the day when you were young. the glamour shots and the school shots that you have on there, you're always wearing a cowboy hat. And it feels like you were kind of maybe born with a cowboy hat on.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in Texas, it's kind of just in your blood, I really didn't know there was another genre besides country music probably till I was around 12 years old. And I just fell in love with it, especially George Strait was like my idol. And so he always wore a cowboy hat. And I fell in love with like the storytelling of country music and just the way it made me feel. And I was first exposed to it just riding around in my dad's truck. And so like whenever we go on a hunting trip or going to the gas station or the hardware store, it was always windows down. He called it 240 AC, two windows down at 40 miles an hour because the air conditioning was broken. So
Nice.
so the 240 AC in a country song is like some of my best, childhood memories. And then it was something that eventually the more and more I saw it, I got hooked on watching CMT and music videos and starting to learn about these artists. And then I can't say I always knew it was what I wanted to do, but I always knew it was my passion.
Right.
I think it's hard to, especially as a kid, be like, hey, I'm going to be a country music star. People kind of roll their eyes and be like, yeah, good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
But in the back of my mind, I kind of always dreamed about it. So that was cool. And I started a band probably like freshman year of high school.
Yeah, before we get there,
yeah.
I don't want to jump too far ahead because we'll get to that. But I want to know I wanted to get to know your family as well, because I think I saw a photo that you had posted from your younger years. You were on a ski trip with your family. And your dad was wearing a cowboy hat while he was skiing. And so was he a pretty straightforward country guy?
100%. Yeah. He was just, so he actually moved to Texas from Brazil when he was a kid. And so he did not speak English. He spoke Portuguese. And he learned how to speak English watching John Wayne movies. And
That's awesome.
And so he was kind of like learned how to be a Texan by being a cowboy, and then he started working on ranches and riding horses, and got fully immersed in the Texas culture. And so you meet him, and you would never in a million years know he was anything else but a cowboy, and that's what most of his life has been. But I think it's funny that he was kind of shaped in his formative years of like learning English and coming to America from watching John Wayne movies. And I think that's why country is so instilled in him, and why he instilled it so much in me. But he's like a huge Willie Nelson fan, which I am, of course, too. And Merle Haggard and Waylon Jennings and George Strait. And, that was kind of like the foundation for me. And he had, he still has it today. In 2001, he bought a F-150 that had one of those 5-disc CD players.
Yeah.
And he, to this day, has the same 5 CDs in it. So it was very much country music in my household.
That is awesome. And as far as listening goes, it was around the house, but were any family members musical? Like, was there singing around the house? Did anyone play any instruments or anything like that?
My grandfather will tell you he's a singer, but I think that's strictly his opinion. Nobody else in the house was really musical, but everybody had a passion for music. Like music was always on, either on the radio or on a record player, or it was just like, a soundtrack to life. But nobody really played or performed music. And so I really didn't learn how to play guitar until later, when I wanted something to kind of back up my singing and my storytelling.
Right. And when did you realize you had a voice? When did you start to sing and sort of enjoy it if no one else in your family really sung?
Yeah, I mean, my confidence outweighed my ability for a long time. I did not start off as like some, incredible talent. But I just loved it, and I would drive my dad crazy. I'd sing every song on the radio when we were in the truck, and probably louder than the radio itself. But it was something that I just loved to do. And then, then it was sitting in my room and practicing songs and singing. And it wasn't probably until middle school that people were like, "Oh man, you can actually sing a little bit," and that was and that just gave me more confidence to go chase it. So yeah,
Right.
but it definitely was not a like natural first note perfection kind of thing. It took me a
Right.
minute.
That's awesome. And I think it was around grade 5 or 6 when you started writing. So what was it around that time that sparked your interest? And, you'd been listening to country music throughout your whole life. So what was it? Was there a moment that kind of sparked your interest to get you writing?
You know, that's a really good point. I think, gosh, I had a Garth Brooks Greatest Hits double album that I really dug into in sixth grade. And I think Standing Outside the Fire is the song that I vividly remember, like digging into those lyrics and being like, wow, like that is, life is not tried, it's merely survived if you're standing outside the fire. And it was kind of just like, get in there and do it,
Yeah.
and so that for me was the song where I was like, man, how cool is that? And so I wanted to, like, on a broader scale, I wanted to make people feel like I felt listening to that song. And so, I started just kind of writing songs without a guitar by myself, singing. I mean, technically it was probably more like poems than songs, but I call them songs. And
Right. Yeah.
they were not good at all, but but that's kind of how it starts, right? It's
Yeah,
like piecing
exactly.
words together, trying to figure out where you're headed, trying to figure out what you want to say. And it's just, I like to think that I've gotten better every year since sixth grade. So it's been a long time.
And now meeting Cody Cooper, that was a big part of your musical journey because that would basically steamroll into what would happen for your career. But that friendship, when you guys first met, was it a friendship based around music, or did that sort of gain traction as you met and started hanging out and realized that you were both drawn to music?
Yeah, it started with music, and then he was such an incredible guy. We ended up becoming like best friends too. But it started with me seeing Cody carrying a guitar around, and I wanted to learn how to play guitar, and so I started bothering him, and we became friends. And then he eventually, taught me how to string a couple chords together, and then I would start singing songs, and Cody would start playing guitar and singing harmony, and all of a sudden we kind of naturally formed the foundation of this little band. And then we, just started trying to pick kids in school that could play bass or play drums or be a part of the band. And then eventually by high school, we had kind of started our first band together. But I mean, we spent basically every second together all the way through grade school, just writing songs, playing music, but also playing sports and, going to parties and going to see movies. And it was a lot more than just music. And to this day, he's still one of my best friends. Like, one of the best guys I've ever met. He's an incredible person.
And do you remember the first show that you played together and the feeling that you had at that point, the first time you sort of stepped on a stage and were able to sing in front of people?
100%. So it was at a now defunct bar on 6th Street in Austin called The Vibe. And we were in ninth grade. And it was one of those things where I was like so nervous all day. I couldn't eat. I couldn't do anything. Like we tried to watch a movie to distract ourselves. And we knew that like there was nothing else going on that weekend. So basically our whole school was going to come to the show.
Right.
And I think we sold like 150 tickets. It was really cool. And, we're downtown 6th Street with these X's on our hands because we're, just little ninth graders that, never even played a show before. But I remember like walking on that stage and like having all those people there like to support us, even though, our music wasn't worth a lick. Like that was such an incredible foundation for starting, just knowing like, hey man, like we got friends that are going to support us and we got people that are going to come out to shows and listen to our music. And so that like really energized me to like try to get better and write better songs and make stuff that people would really enjoy listening to. And I think that was a lot of the magic about growing up in Austin is like, what kind of kid gets that opportunity to go play their first show and have all their friends and family come out and watch it? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like usually it
exactly.
starts with an open mic to nobody. And so I think that really speaks volume, like not only about the school we went to, but about Austin as a city. It was just like such a collaborative and supportive city. And that was definitely like when I got bit by the bug, when I was like, man, that was an unbelievable adrenaline rush. And I remember I didn't sleep at all the night after. I was just like an incredible high of just being like, holy crap, we just played, at the time it felt like a rock show, like electric guitars and drums, and we're playing. It was interesting for us. Like most kids start out as cover bands, and just because we didn't know any better, we didn't play any cover songs. We wrote all of our songs, and they were all, rough, but it was, we got up there and we played 10 original songs on stage. And I think that was cool. It was very unique.
And did it take you some time to get over those nerves to be comfortable on stage, or after that one show, was it just such a high that from that point on, you were just excited to jump up there?
I would say, man, even after getting a record deal and moving to Nashville and everything, it's been in the last 3 or 4 years that I finally don't really get nervous going on stage. Like it was a long time. Yeah. And I think that's more just like feeling self-conscious about your craft and like some of your weaknesses and stuff you need to work on. And I think as the show tightened up and the songwriting tightened up and I felt more confident in what I was doing, that was when the nerves kind of started to fade away. So now I'm just up there having fun. Yeah.
That's awesome. And let's talk about sort of the Nashville phase, sort of graduating. Well, first of all, let's talk about graduation, because music wasn't a focus right away, right? You sort of went off to university, you got a job as a real estate agent, and sort of got into real life. And so after high school, was there a focus of music, or did you take a year or two off of music?
Man, I never really had the intention of playing music professionally. Like I just it was something I loved and it was a passion, and that's how I treated it. I would work, my hours were pretty crazy. I'd work till 7 p.m. most nights. And then we'd schedule rehearsal at like 10 p.m. and rehearse from like 10 to 1 a.m. And then, we'd go to work the next morning, and we'd play shows on Friday and Saturday nights every week. And the crowds just kept getting bigger, and more people started coming out. And that was kind of how buzz eventually got to Nashville. But I went into this like strictly out of like passion and it being something that I love to do, and never in a million years guessed that it could have turned into my profession. It was strictly a passion project. Yeah.
Right. And it was 2012, I believe, or no, 2014 that you picked up and moved to Nashville. Now, how much convincing did that take? How many people had to sit you down and say, this is the right move, this is what you should do, go chase this, take the leap and do it?
I still think that we would not have moved had we not got offered a record deal. And that was the thing where it was, we got a call from Nashville saying, hey, we'd like to offer you a record deal contingent on seeing you play live. So move to Nashville, come play a show, and we'll sign you to a deal. And that was a safety net for us. And we're like, you can't, so as soon as we got that record deal offer, we both quit our jobs within 24 hours. We were gone, so that's when it really got real, to know that people believed in us to invest their own money in the music that we're making, which, I mean, to this day, I still can't wrap my head around. The team that supports me, the people that spend their own time trying to make my dreams come true, the people that invest their money in my music, it is unfathomable to me, and I'm incredibly thankful for it.
And so you go play the show, you obviously get offered the record deal. Now, what was the feeling like within you? Like you say, within a 24-hour period, you quit your job, you're moving to Nashville. What was the feeling at that point for you of just making that move and the realization that music was all of a sudden going to be the focus?
Man, I had an overwhelming feeling of being an imposter, probably like my first 3 years in Nashville, just being like, hey man, I have no idea how the hell I got here. I'm not good enough to be here. I have no idea how these people are believing in me. And so it was anxiety for like a long time. Just being like, people are going to find out who I really am, or find out that I'm a fraud, or that, that we hadn't been doing this forever, or which we had, but
Yeah.
it was just one of those things that was so new to it. I didn't know anything about the industry itself. I knew music, but I didn't know how the business worked, or what, each individual job was, or everything that goes on behind the scenes. So like, it was pretty intense, for the first few years. And then you get more comfortable, and you make friends, and you have people explain the industry to you, and you see other people move into town, and it becomes a little more relaxed. But it definitely took a few years to kind of get my groove in Nashville.
And your wife, you met her back in high school, I believe. Was it high school or middle school that you two met?
Freshman year of college, actually.
Oh,
So
college.
basically high school. We
Okay.
were 18. Yeah. Yeah. So
So
we were young.
what did that mean to have her there from the very beginning along this journey, and have her support, and have her know what's going into this journey, and the kind of support you need to be able to chase the dream?
Yeah. I mean, no chance I could have done it without her. Because she believed in me. When I said, when I didn't totally believe in myself when I was here, and she packed up her life and moved to Nashville with me. And then I think there's something to be said on, like, I'm by no means a superstar, the most famous person in the world, but knowing that she was with me before I had anything going on, and she loved me like truly for who I was,
Yeah.
gives me like a massive sense of comfort at home, like knowing that I love her for who she is, and she loves me for who I am, like when you strip everything else away. So that she is definitely my safety net, 100%.
That's awesome. And we should mention the band that you started with, Cody. The reason you moved to Nashville, it was Waterloo Revival was the band that you started. Now, along this journey, I saw a post from 2016 it was, and you were backstage. You were touring with Toby Keith at the time. You were backstage, you were in a conversation with Toby Keith and Post Malone, and you mentioned in the post that later that night you had met SEAL Team 6 and had a conversation with them. And so along that journey, over those years of being with the band, when you had moments like that, like, what was that like for you? Was it almost an out of body experience when you were having those moments?
100%. Yeah, because I mean, these are people you've seen or heard about your whole life, and then you're meeting them just as a normal person, and you come to realize that they are just normal people at the end of the day, with exceptional talents, I will say, obviously. But I got to meet Larry Bird, I got to meet Roger Clemens, I got to meet Bob Stoops, SEAL Team 6, Post Malone, all of these just incredibly famous and talented people, and it just kind of put it in perspective to me, that there's no magic behind the scenes or anything. Like, these are real people that worked really hard and found their way, and it's really inspiring more than anything. And you kind of just try to pick off some of their mindset. Like, how do you think? Like, how do you approach life? What drives you? How do you motivate yourself? How do you differentiate yourself? And just taking little nuggets from these people that have conquered their specific industry. I mean, it was really cool, and I learned a ton with being on the road and getting to meet those kind of folks.
That's awesome. Now, before we get to 2020, let's talk about sort of 2019. You guys had built yourselves up to where you have a career in country music. You're making a living doing this. You played Watershed, you played CMA Fest. Just talk about sort of that year before the pandemic and how you were feeling at that point in your journey.
Yeah, it was, it's pretty gratifying to get to a point where you were making as much money doing what you love as you were at a desk job, and that, like, you're paying your bills, you got a house, you got cars, you got, and music is paying for it. That is, to me, when I started music, I always said that's what I would consider making it. Is being able to live a comfortable life supported entirely by music. And then once you get there, obviously, you're looking at the next mountain or the next step,
enough,
or like,
right?
yeah, exactly. How do I keep going? And so I was definitely guilty of kind of I don't want to say wishing the present away, but always looking at the future and not taking a moment to say thank you for where I was at. And
Right.
it's something I've really tried to change this year. And I think that's because like I'm a motivated person and I want to be the best that I can be. And I always see what I can be doing better, and I want to go work on that. But I think that this year specifically, I've really tried to take a moment to like, hey man, that was cool. That was a big deal. Like, be happy about it, celebrate that, take a mental snapshot of it and enjoy it.
Right.
Because to be honest, like you kind of wear yourself out if you don't give yourself a chance to enjoy the little victories, you know? So, and so that was something that, looking back, I'm like, man, that was some really, really, some of the best times of my life and some of the, you know, biggest milestones to date. And I don't think I took enough time to really enjoy and appreciate them. So I'm really focused this year on making sure I do that.
Right. And so talk about 2020 and the feelings within that year, and basically coming into 2021 and making the decision, going to your record label saying, you know, I want out of the deal. I want to go do my own thing. Just talk about sort of the progress in how you were feeling over 2020 and sort of how you came to that decision.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was sitting in my house taking stock of where I was at during the shutdown, like a lot of us did during COVID. It was a really great reflective time. And, you know, I think the overarching question is like, was I happy with where I was and where I was heading? And unfortunately, the answer at the time was I just was not feeling like super fulfilled with the direction I was heading. And through nobody's fault, you know. Obviously when you're with a record label and when you have an A&R team and a bunch of people touching the product, you know, there's a lot of people with a lot of opinions on where things should be going musically and directionally and brand wise and everything. And I didn't totally agree with all of the way things were heading. And so, you know, I called Cody and I had a super heart to heart with him about where I was at and how I was feeling. And you know, him being like the incredible friend that he is, which I think that was so important for us, was having our friendship be the foundation of our relationship. Outside of
Right.
everything else, like we both want the very best for each other. And he totally understood, and he was totally supportive of me. And I still write with Cody, and I have intentions of cutting some of the stuff that we wrote together on the solo project, actually. But with his blessing, I asked out of the deal. And I actually didn't have the vision that I was going to go do the solo artist thing at that time. I
Right.
just knew that I wasn't happy where I was at and I needed to figure out what was next. And so I kind of jumped without the parachute. Yeah. And so once I got out of the deal, I was like, okay, crap, I got to figure out what's next. And so
Right.
songwriting had always been a passion of mine. And so I kind of started trying to chase that a little bit. And luckily, I had made friends with a lot of artists in town through my time, and so I started writing with a lot of my artist friends and getting a little bit of traction there. And I started getting some cuts and started getting some of my songs out there, and that caught the attention of a guy named Ash Bowers, who's now
Yeah.
my manager. And Ash helped get me set up with my first publishing deal, where I was writing songs professionally, and that to me was huge. I was like, okay, like I can breathe. Like we're gonna be all right.
Right.
We're gonna figure something out. But I got a paycheck. I got a job. Like we're good. And so I dug into that and just really, really hammered away at getting better at songwriting. Like I wanted to perfect that craft. And you know, I started writing with some of the best guys in town. And the first few months, I really did get my teeth kicked in. You know, I just, you know, and my goal was to always be the worst writer in the room, always be writing with people better than you
Right.
and learn
Yeah.
from them, right? And eventually it got pretty good. And that's when I started getting in some bigger rooms with some bigger artists, and then I went to Galveston, Texas, with Clay Walker to write for his new record. We had gotten to be friends, and being from Texas, I idolized Clay. Like he was
Yeah.
the guy I tried to sing like. I loved his songs. And I was kind of telling him, you know, I don't know what's next for me, whether it's just songwriting or whether I'm going to ever try the artist thing again. And he looks at me and he's like, son, I'll tell you exactly what you need to do. you need to put your songs on TikTok. At the time, I was like, man, that's the most ridiculous advice I've ever gotten. But that night, I created a TikTok account, and I clicked on the country music hashtag just because that's what I like. And the first video I see is this girl, and over the top of it, it says "Men in Country Music," and she's kind of singing this fake song that country music ain't nothing but beer, beer, truck, truck, and girls in tight jeans. And I would consider like this exact moment as I'm watching this video, every time I've like replayed it in my head, like how the next series of events takes place, I'm like, it couldn't be anything other than fate, like that this was supposed to happen the way it did.
Right.
Because I've never responded to a video like that in my entire life. And whatever reason, that night I see that video and I'm like, I'm going to write a song with her lyrics as a response to defend country music. And so I did. And I've got no followers, like 6 followers.
Right.
I just started this account. I post my little chorus that I wrote out of her lyrics. We go to dinner. We come back 3 hours later, and it's blown up, like thousands and thousands and thousands of views. And we're all freaking out, like, man, wow, this is really cool. But I kind of thought that was an isolated moment in time. I didn't think that was going to like change my life.
Right.
Well, over the course of the next week, the thousands of views turned into nearly 100,000 followers on TikTok. And so that was insane to me. And there was such a demand for me to finish this song that I was kind of like, all right, man, you're going to put out a song called Beer, Beer, Truck, Truck with your name on it. You better sit down and make sure it's pretty damn good.
Right. Yeah.
And so I get to Nashville and I finished writing this song, and I call my buddy Jaron Boyer, who's a big songwriter and producer in town. I'm like, hey, dude, can I just like pop by the house for a few hours and record a little basic demo of this song? And so I do. And then I post the demo on TikTok and on YouTube, and it explodes and does several million views. And every record label in town starts calling my phone. And people are wanting to sign me to record deals, and my life just absolutely got turned on its head. So it was, I mean, me getting into the music industry in the first place was never my intention. Could have never in a million years guessed it would happen like that. And then this second shot, this second chance coming from the most insane series of events anybody could ever dream up. I feel very blessed to be where I'm at. And I feel like big things are in store, man.
That's awesome. And the next question I'm going to ask, bear with me, because I've been thinking about it in my head and I don't know exactly how to word it, but I want to ask it anyways. So you're coming off a successful stint with a band with Waterloo Revival. You're coming out of that project, and then you have this song that blows up on TikTok. Everything I read about you now, it's like you're a TikTok influencer. You're this brand new guy who blew up. You're, TikTok, TikTok, TikTok. And I'm looking at it like, well, no, he's been here since 2014. He's had a career. He's more than just this one clip that he posted on TikTok. And so how does that make you feel when you're looking at that? And I know you got to be very grateful for what has happened with that song. But is there different feelings when looking at what you've accomplished in your career and almost having that wiped off the map because of this social media game, and all of a sudden you're a huge social media star?
You make an incredible point. It's a lifetime overnight success, right? Like It's something that I've worked at and tried to perfect my entire life. But at first it really did bother me. I don't want to be a TikTok star. I feel like that my music is a lot more than that. And I sat down and had this conversation with Clay, and you kind of figure out, like, you use the resources at your disposal. And at the time, I did not have a record deal. I didn't have, tens of thousands of dollars in my pocket to run a marketing campaign to put my music out, or to, record my own record. And so, this was my option to reach the masses. And Clay kind of explained it to me in the way that you can go tour for 3 years and not get in front of 2 million people, or you can post a compelling piece of content and in 24 hours you can get in front of 2 million people.
Right.
And that's, so I just consider, I've taken a step back and I've considered this my jumping off point. And I just released a new song, Mind on You, that I think really showcases my voice and my songwriting. I've got an EP of 5 songs that I've never been more proud of, coming out at the top of the next year. So, we all bang our head against the wall and just pray for that little crack of daylight in the door that we can slip our foot through and get in the room. And so I look at TikTok as my door that got me in the room, and I'm going to continue to build on that. And I'm hoping that my live show and my songwriting and my recordings, as people get to know me better and get more familiar with my music, will prove more than just a social media sensation.
That's awesome. And I wanted to talk about Mind on You. You wrote that song when you were just songwriting. You sent it off to Jason Aldean. They sent you a message back saying, we're cutting this song, basically. And then all of a sudden you become more of an artist and you go back to Aldean's camp and you say, actually, I want that song back. What was that conversation like? What were you feeling inside when you
Nervous
realized
as
you
hell,
had to go back to them?
It was, so at the time when I wrote that song, it was between the period of when I had asked out of my deal and when Beer Truck had blown up. And so it was at the time, like I told you, that I thought I was just going to be a songwriter. And so that's why I pitched it to Michael Knox, who is Jason Aldean's producer. And 24 hours later, I get an email, hey, don't play the song for anybody else. We think we're going to record it. And at the time, that was like as cool a thing as it happened to me. So I was super excited. And then you fast forward and Beer Truck blows up, and I'm talking to all these record labels, and I decide I'm going to sign with records. And I'm talking to Barry Weiss, who's the head of the label, and he's like, man, you need to ask for that song back. It's a hit for you. And I tossed and turned on it, because if Aldean cuts it, it's guaranteed big money for me.
Yeah,
it's not a small check.
That's what I was wondering.
But I kind of just had to sit myself down and say, listen, if you can't bet on yourself, who can? And that was the approach that I took on it. And so I called the team, called Knox, and they could not have been more excited for me. And they wished me luck and gave me the song back. And we're so happy to hear of everything kind of taken off from me. And I think that speaks volumes of that camp. You know what I mean? Because that's not the first time a song has been given and then asked for back in this industry. And without saying any names, it doesn't always work out like that.
Right.
So I think that they're very, very incredible folks over there. And I just couldn't be more, and I think they understand like that this is a jumping off point for my career, and this song could potentially change my life. And I hope it is going to, and for them to have that kind of vision and give me that opportunity. It is really cool. And I was nervous as hell asking for it because it doesn't always work out that way. But I couldn't be more proud to have my name on it.
That's awesome. And now you have your EP that you produced with Ash Bowers. Do you have sort of a date for that? Do you have a schedule of when we're going to start seeing more and more and then have the full EP?
Yeah. So I'm hoping February, March-ish of next year, we will have the full EP out. And then I'm continuing to write and record with the hopes that we'll roll that EP into an album later in the year.
Nice. And what is it like playing that music live? You've had the chance to do that on some pretty big stages here in 2021. So what has it been like getting up there as a solo artist as compared to being with the band?
It's been incredible. I feel like this is the first time I've been allowed to be authentically me with my songwriting. And with the performance, and just seeing people connect with the songs and seeing them resonate is the most gratifying thing to me, because this is the first time I've stuck my neck out there by myself with something that was entirely my idea and direction and brand and sound, and seeing people take that and run with it and connect with it. It's the most gratifying thing in the world for me. It's awesome.
That's so cool. Well, congratulations on everything. It's a great time to be going into the holidays for a little downtime for you, I would imagine, and then kick things off in the new year with new music, and I would imagine tours and get the ball rolling.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge year next year. I know we've got a lot of stuff in the works. I'm going to be on the road a lot. Going to be going to country radio, and we're gonna have all kinds of stuff coming. So thank you so much. I am fired up. I'm ready to go grab the bull by the horns this year.
Thank you once again so much for listening, and thank you to George for stopping by and sharing his story. Be sure to check out Beer Truck and Mind on You wherever you stream your music, and look out for new music coming in the new year. Please also be sure to like, share, follow, subscribe to us wherever you are listening. Leave us a review, a rating, tell your friends, your family, your neighbors to come on over and have a listen. That support is huge. Please also be sure to join us each and every week for new and exciting episodes with your favorite country music artists. Thanks once again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Country Music Made Me.